Hello all of you wonderful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I'm here today to talk to you about video game endings, or more specifically about video game endings that see the player-controlled character bite the big one. These moments can be incredibly moving, as lest we not forget you've been playing as these heroes for hours and hours, with weeks of your after-school or post-work chill time being focused on these forces of good. Therefore, saying goodbye to them under any circumstances is going to be hard. However, all things must come to an end, so you know what, let's go out in style and pour one out for these 10 beloved heroes. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video games where you die at the end. Also, heads up, there's going to be spoilers for the Red Dead franchise, just in case you've not played them. Number 10, Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. So let's kick things off with a double punch right to the gut with Red Dead 1 and 2. Now, while we've spoken many times about the shocking and Swiss cheese shootout that was John Marston's end, we've spoken less about the fate of Arthur Morgan because of its relative newness. But let's dive into the death with 2 feet, shall we? Marston's final moments were utterly breathtaking as you came to realize that you simply could not win this time. And upon his death, you finally understand that the only way for him to break his cycle of violence and murder is for him to die. He would have never achieved peace, but his end could buy that for his family. In the case of Arthur Morgan's death, his one is less dramatic but arguably more poignant for it. While there were multiple endings, all of which result in Morgan's death, the most famous is undoubtedly Arthur's slow succumbing to tuberculosis. Weakening throughout the game, Morgan eventually lays down and dies alone in the mountains, watching one final sunrise. Honestly, you'd have to be made of stone to remain tear-free in that moment. Number 9, LA Noire. Built in the GTA mold, LA Noire put the player in the highly polished shoes of war hero turned cop Cole Phelps as he worked his way up the ranks of the LAPD. Yet while he rose in his career, his personal life began to swan dive, and with his extramarital affair and subsequent demotion to the arson squad, Phelps' story was set up perfectly for a tragic end. His final mission involved a confrontation with a former military ally whose penchant for starting fires across the city is now threatening the lives of hundreds. Forced into a quickly flooding sewer, Phelps ultimately decides to, in the ever-decreasing window of time in which to make his escape, save his partner rather than himself, and is then swept away to a watery grave. It's a bittersweet end in that he'd gone out the hero that he always wanted to be, but his actions and life were still viewed with scrutiny by those who followed, and especially the player themselves. Number 8, Uncanny Valley. In this side-scrolling 16-bit style game, the player takes control of security guard Tom, who is about to embark on his first night shift at a new site full of empty corridors and blinking overhead lights. Oh, and it's heavily suggested that something else is stalking these corridors, but we're not entirely sure what. You're free to explore the facility however you want, and through sleuthing and fishing through notes and scraps, you'll be able to piece together the true role of the facility and the shady goings-on deep within. The game was designed with multiple playthroughs in mind and has tons of endings to unlock, and of these, of course, there's going to be some where Tom meets his maker, and most of these ones are truly horrible, so keep your torch up and keep on moving, my friend. Also, does that doctor sound familiar? No, I swear it couldn't be me. Number 7, Star Wars Battlefront 2. One of the major criticisms of EA/DICE's 2015 Star Wars Battlefront reboot was the lack of a distinct single-player campaign, and so the devs went back to the drawing board and came back swinging with a full campaign in Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's a shame that the mode was pretty lackluster, but you know what, at least it gave a decent ending to the ex-TIE fighter pilot Versio, as she enters into a showdown with former ally Gideon Hask. Both managed to mortally wound the other, but in a classic tale of redemption, Versio dies saving her daughter and furthering the cause of the New Republic in its battle with the fledgling First Order. And you know what? I'm never going to turn down any opportunity to learn more about Star Wars. I bloody love it. Number 6, Mass Effect 3. Undoubtedly one of the most divisive video game finales in recent memory, Mass Effect 3 for me really dropped the ball hard when it came to closing up shop, because it boiled down hundreds of hours of gameplay into, well, what essentially was 3 color-coded options, none of which felt satisfying in the slightest to trigger. Whichever choice you did end up picking though, the universe was shaped forever, but at the cost of the mass relays and therefore the deaths of countless billions of beings who were left stranded from civilization, and along with them, Commander Shepard, who gave their life to make this all possible. Now, I know that many people will talk about the twitch of life that you get if you complete the game on the hardest difficulty, but the fact that Shep is never mentioned in Andromeda as having gone on to survive probably means that this isn't canon. Still, though, while they did go out a bit like a chump, the journey getting there was truly epic. Number 5. Slender: The Arrival. In Slender: The Arrival, the player assumes the role of Lauren, who, upon discovering that her friend Kate was recently attacked, sets out to help. Pulling up to Kate's house, Lauren finds that all is eerily dark and quiet. So far, so stock horror game, right? By entering the house, she finds it abandoned and in disarray, with disturbing and foreboding images of a thin, not quite human-looking spectre scratched and scribbled onto the walls. Ruh-roh, Shaggy. From there, it's all woods, puzzles, and three-piece suit-wearing skinny boys. And at the end of it all, shock horror! From a shock horror game, you die, being added to the mountain of Twitch streamers as victims of the Slender Man. Number 4. Halo Reach. Playing as Super Soldier Noble 6, Halo Reach is about the bloody war on the planet Reach between the human settlers and the Covenant. And while not being something centered around the tin of beef known as the Chief, this is still an insanely fun romp. As the narrative progresses, 6 witnesses the deaths of all of his teammates one by one, as the Covenant encroach across the planet, and soon it becomes clear that there will be no victory this day. Therefore, 6 helps with a tactical retreat, ending with the Pillar of Autumn leaving Reach with the last Spartan left to face the coming horde. What follows is a post-credits section that puts the player in 6's shoes once more as he holds his ground against the Covenant masses. It's an impossible to win situation, but my god, do you go down like an absolute hero. Number 3. Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. 2008 Star Wars: The Force Unleashed was a pretty unexpected triumph for LucasArts and THQ, providing thrilling third-person action but also a rather brilliant tale of dark to light side switcheroo as Starkiller turns from Darth Vader's PA to Rebel Alliance bad boy. However, while it was an absolute joy to throw lightsabers, rip vehicles from the sky and hurl stormtroopers into the abyss, the canon, but not canon enough to be considered actual canon ending to the game, showcased the ultimate destruction of our anti-hero. Even the dark side ending sees us turn into burnt toast boy, and while technically this means that Starkiller is still alive, he's not exactly living a great life with his actions and emotions controlled entirely by the Emperor. Rough stuff, right? Number 2. Shadow of the Colossus. Regarded as an absolute masterpiece and staple entry on best game of all time lists forevermore, 2006's Shadow of the Colossus is such a unique experience, and it has a truly heart-wrenching ending. A young man named Wanda, spurned on by the mysterious disembodied voice of Dormin, must restore a young girl named Mono to life by killing 16 enormous creatures known as the Colossi. Unbeknownst to Wanda, however, with each Colossi he defeats, by attacking their specific weak points obviously, Dormin grows incrementally stronger and stronger, and Wanda's appearance becomes more ghastly in turn. And as the final monolithic beast falls, Dormin is free again and rewards Wanda by killing him and invading his body. It's hard not to feel completely gutted by this ending, but for its message and its delivery, its bittersweet perfection is something that is enjoyed the world over to this very day. And number 1, The Walking Dead Season 1. Arguably one of the most affecting video game deaths ever, Lee Everett's demise at the end of Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1 is as devastating as it is strangely fitting, as Lee and pseudo-adopted daughter Clementine try to survive, scavenging whatever food and medical supplies they can get their hands on and making and breaking the bonds of friendship along the way. It's almost impossible not to become emotionally attached to the pair of them. However, it appears that luck and time has run out for Lee come the season's close. Bitten by a walker hidden beneath a trash pile that he was investigating, Lee's condition worsens throughout the game's final stages, and ultimately he succumbs to his wound, but not before asking Clem and the player to make one final and truly arduous choice: either walk away or put him out of his misery. And for all the jokes and all the memes, whatever you choose, Clem will indeed remember this. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video games where you die at the end. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, as well as any other entries that you might have, because who knows, I might do a commenters edition of this further down the line. If you want to chat to me further about all things to do with video games and beyond, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. We detailed today a lot about video games where you unfortunately had to die at the end. As I've said before, this is unfortunately a very natural part of life, to die. It's something that will happen to all of us in the end, but it's not something that we should be afraid of in the sense that we should live our life in fear of not being alive anymore. We should live our lives the best that we possibly can, to go out there, to help each other, to flourish as a society, to grow, adapt, survive, change, whatever, become a better person, because at the end of the day, you've only got one life, and it is worth living because you deserve love, happiness, and success. I hope that you're able to achieve all of those goals, but remember, if you are struggling, then do not worry. You have friends, family, professionals in the support industry. All of them care about you and want you to do well. So go out there and absolutely smash it, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.